So when I went through nursing school, we do almost 4 years of education. When I went into corporate, here's a training manual, there's your computer, we'll see you later. And I thought to myself, this is really stupid. Marketing actually doesn't fix your problems. It just makes those problems more evident. So if you're not answering the calls, you're not calling the leads, there's no amount of marketing in the world that's going to fix that problem for the person. So what I will do is that I think is how you build a successful business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another interview. I'm super excited to be here with Brad Ferris. He came to me at a really crucial time in my agency. He was able to help me a lot with some really important things when it comes to retention, show rates, all of the things that plague agency owners and they don't know how to fix. So I'm excited to talk about some of that stuff today, but also recruitment, because Brad runs a really cool recruitment service for agencies where he helps you place customer service managers and other things like that, which I'm sure he'll tell us more about today. But Brad, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So give us a bit of background on you. I believe you started in private equity in kind of the medical space, and tell us about that and then give us a glimpse into what you're doing now.
Yep. So original plan was I thought I'd be a CEO in a hospital, run everything. So I did my graduate degree in marketing. I have an undergrad just in basic science. When I actually did my nursing, because I figured business and healthcare pairing together would get me on the board. And then I don't know, I just fell in love with the patients. It was great. I'm a 6'4" big guy, and I got into pediatrics and working with kids. Ran a fertility practice for about 5 years. And as I was doing that, you always had doctors tapping you on the shoulder with a private practice saying, hey, what should I do to get more patients? Or what should I do with staffing? Or what should I do with marketing? From time to time, you do a couple of gigs and stuff. And then as I was running a large neurology group at the local children's hospital, private equity tapped me on the shoulder. I wasn't really thinking about it until they show you how much money they pay. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. So about 3 years of that, I was near my exit, and that was January of 19. First time I ever saw GHL. And my business partner, Brett, was doing like a little couple research studies for a place up in Boca in Florida. And that was the first time I saw it. And I was using like 7 different softwares to try to do everything that Sean and Robin had put together with Vikram. And I was like, this thing's insane. As I was getting near my exit, I was like, hey, I think we should build an agency together. And he had Clinic Grow already, and he had maybe 15 clients. And obviously with my medical background, we wanted to take over the world. And this was October of 19. So little did we know COVID was like literally right around the corner, and it would hit, and we were like, let's do everything virtual. None of these doctors have a clue how to do virtual. They've never had to sell virtual, do virtual, built the agency just shy of 7 figures. Came out of COVID, and we just keep jamming ever since.
Love it. So you guys work with any medical practice, or what is the bulk of your clients made up of?
We started working with every medical practice. And then as any agency owner, everyone's, hey, do you niche out or do you only do just one? We tried dental like you for a little bit. So we're doing more like implants. We've got a large varicose vein legacy client list. Did a lot of aesthetics. Ultimately, though, with what working with dentists was like, it was a positive experience, but a difficult one. And we really just focused, our best results were in aesthetics. That's what our team really enjoyed doing. So about 6 months ago, we 100% moved over to a cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery based practice. And it's done really well since. And it's just amazing how simplifying your campaigns, simplifying your fulfillment, your onboarding process, you're not having to do different forms for different clients or different things. The ad team's jamming, the client success team is enjoying it. It's way easier on our call center team. And those docs love spending money. They're not giving you a hard time about their ad budgets at all.
Love it. So just plastic surgery, not like med spas, Botox, that kind of thing, or do you have some of those as well?
So it would be, the way that I would define it would be, you have plastic surgeons, which have their actual fellowship in plastic surgery. You have cosmetic surgeons that might be a mix of general surgeons and other doctors that are doing cosmetic. And if they have a med spa, we are doing those services for them. But like the small little kind of like strip mall, get your laser lipo, it's not our style.
Got it. And how many clients are you guys sitting at now?
Sure, it's 55 right now.
Love it.
Yeah, so we've increased our average retainer quite a bit by doing websites, SEO, the call center. So it's a fairly higher price ticket than most agencies, but retention is pretty much around 11 months. Average lifetime value, our minimum goal is getting to 25,000. And then we're doing a lot of joint ventures, referrals, industry events, that old school marketing. Just we forget the the direct mail exists. We forget that those kind of wow welcome boxes and Dream 100. And just really getting into, we're older guys, so it's okay for us to be maybe a little bit more older school. But not everyone you can reach on Facebook or Google.
Smart. I love it. And you differentiate yourself just by showing up and competing on proximity in that way, showing up to the events, doing the stuff that nobody else is willing to do. Before we get into today's episode, I'm super excited to share with you a little bit about one of our sponsors on the podcast today, Riverside. If you are a content creator or a podcaster and you're tired of your recordings with guests who sound like they're speaking with you through a tin can, then Riverside is for you. We've all been there. You're ready to do the interview. You've got your questions ready. Your guest is all set to go, and then your internet connection is unstable, message ruins the entire recording. With Riverside, you can get rid of those internet issues and choppy audio and have clean sounding recordings effortlessly. You see, the interesting thing about Riverside is that they record each part of the episode locally on that person's device, and then they upload it to the cloud, so you make sure not to miss anything, even if it's the other person's fault. And by the way, this episode was actually recorded on Riverside, so you can see the quality firsthand. But that's not all. Riverside's amazingly user-friendly interface is super easy to use, which allows you to spend less time troubleshooting technical difficulties and editing your podcast, and instead spend more time speaking with amazing guests and getting recognized for your valuable content. It can be used for podcasts, video interviews, video marketing, panel discussions, talking head presentations, and live broadcasting. And not only does it just record all of those things, it has a ton of other built-in features that make it a no-brainer for podcasting and video. Things like AI transcriptions, editing a video by removing text, AI clips, captions, and an awesome short-form video editor built right in. And they even recently came out with a feature that auto edits the long silences out of your podcast to the perfect length. It really is your all-in-one online video and podcast studio. And if you need more convincing, Gary Vee, Guy Raz, and Ali Abdal all use Riverside for their content and podcasts. But the very best part is that I've teamed up with them to get you guys 50% off any plan. And to get that discount, all you have to do is click the link below and enter the code IT'sKeaton at checkout. Thanks so much, Riverside, for sponsoring this episode. And with that said, let's get started. So the service, that the offer that you guys are actually giving, is it Facebook, Google, SEO, website, and call center? Or do you have a light version of that, or is it just the whole package?
It's pretty much that package. That's where we've seen the most success. Most of our clients are probably working already with 2 to 3 agencies, but those agencies are just single service focused. What they didn't really have was a center solution. All the leads are coming through. Who's answering? Who's calling? So call center to us, as we were working through the dental niche, made a ton of sense. They weren't calling their leads. They didn't want to call their leads. They had answering services after hours. So you just, as you were listening to calls, patients were trying to book appointments, and then you just got the sense that they were going back to Google and just calling the next practice. For this, because obviously the value of a patient is far higher than what it was in dental, it made sense to have that as almost our flagship offer. And I helped with Eliza feedback, and I think a lot of people are aware of the Eliza platform that High Level has available. It's amazing if you don't know what it is, because they call everything Eliza. It's a different platform than the AI thing. But then it comes down to, like, our bread and butter was still Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. And when you're trying to convert cold traffic, it absolutely helps having a call team available, because you've got to make sure you deploy resources and be available for when they call in. Google is fairly easy to white label, and we have that internal now. Justin Rondo, Manabi at Invisible are great friends and colleagues of ours, and they do an amazing job. And this last thing, SEO and website. At some point in time, those clients, if they're sticking around for about a year, maybe 2, they're going to need a revision to their website. Or as Google's changed there with LSAs now, regular search, map has become way more important, and they're not generating any reviews. They're not responding to them. They're not updating profile pictures or anything like that on GMB. I still call it GMB because I'm old. But when you can do all of those things and track through GHL, it's really easy to show the client, where are they performing? What is the marketing mix that's performing best? What's the cost per acquisition that they need to generate? The conversations we had with clients in January, which was amazing, was, hey, here's all your costs. How many of these patients do you want? There's your marketing budget for the year. Rather than having to come in and pitch like wild guarantees. I know that's all the rage still, I think, out there. It's really coming down and saying, hey, foundational, I think you were talking about, mentioning some of my controversial posts recently, right? It's like, guarantee worthless unless you have results, right? We have results. Yeah. We've been around. We've good reputation. We've got the 50 plus reviews now at 5 stars. People have seen us at industry events a couple of times. It takes time and it's hard work. I'm not going to ever say that it's not. It's a lot of flights and has going around working the industry events, but that, I think, is how you build a successful business.
Love it. No, it definitely on this channel, we are opposed to guarantees. So hopefully don't get too much hate in the comments. But I read something the other day. The minute I switched from an irresistible offer to a clear offer, everything changed. And I think there's so much truth in that. And that's what you just articulated. When you can go to someone and say, cost per acquisition for Facebook is $200 a patient, and cost per acquisition on Google is 300, cost per acquisition on SEO is 150. How much do you want? That's so clear and makes such a big difference because you've cut through all the noise, all the marketing BS from everybody else. And the right person that you actually want to work with is going to be like, wow, this math works for me. Love that.
It also allows you to have a more sophisticated conversation with them in terms of, hey, the bottom 20% of our clients, this is the ROI they generate, which is still positive. The top clients are generating the following. Are you going to put in the effort? Are you going to come to the calls? Are you going to make sure that you let us do a photo shoot or send the influencer in or any of the stuff that we're doing from a marketing standpoint? Great. So you want to be in. The nice thing about the plastic surgery niche is those guys are so competitive. They don't want to be second. They want to be first. Just the overall engagement you get from those clients is different than what we had seen in other niches.
Okay, so you put this up on Facebook recently. Stop quoting your gurus, just become one. What does that mean?
That's my Alex will probably message me about that. That's my mustache man comment, which is listen, I don't overconsume the content that's out there from all the different people, but I think everyone is going to quote about school or what this person is doing or that person is doing. And I'm like, hey, no offense. What he's really saying is the time that you're spending doing that, you should be grinding over here. And if you're actually going to put in the effort, that's what matters most. So that was my thing of you're listening to the noise, but you're not following the teaching, which is ultimately go put in the hard work, understand why it's working. Don't just take it for granted. Just don't go after read a book and do a guarantee and think, voila, I'm going to scale to an 8-figure agency. You're still going to have to do everything properly. And from a couple of guys that went to very prestigious schools telling people, hey, don't do education seems a little funny to me because obviously they're benefiting from how they learned, which is what they went to university for, to learn these complex ideas and things like that. I just think sometimes there's a little bit of a hypocrisy there. And I think giving a different perspective is important to people where I love my education. I value it massively. It obviously has helped me in a huge way. How much specifics am I dealing with every single day that I learned? But I was taught to learn a specific way. And now I can apply all of that to what I'm doing inside of my business. Yeah, I just think it's a little hypocritical that people are, don't do this, just listen to me. And I'm like, you're listening, but you're not actually doing. So just go and do it.
Got it. And that's how you become your own guru.
I think so. Listen, being a parent changes, right? And you're experiencing this right now too, right? I have 3 young boys. I consider them young men. I want to be their guru. I want to be their role model. I want to be that person that talks about faith, hard work, routine, ethic, making right decisions. Do I want them listening to somebody else? That's great if they want to, but we all should just have better role models in our direct life, which I think solves a lot of this whole, like, I'm going to spend my time on TikTok or YouTube or looking at reels all day. You're not building your business. You're just wasting time.
Very important method. Love that. So the next one is when hiring, acquire attitude, then invest into expertise. I want to get your take on this, but I want to offer my premeditated bias against this one. I made a lot of hiring mistakes in my agency, and I'm sure will continue to make a few throughout my lifetime. But the ones that I have stopped making are going cheap and trying to invest into the experience of this person. And I've made a lot of hires that I would, in hindsight, say this was a mistake because of how much time I had to spend investing into expertise. Even though I was saving a little bit on money every single month, I was spending way more time on Slack and Zoom mentoring and trying to train this person up. So what's your response to that? And what do you mean by acquire attitude, then invest into expertise?
I think it's actually pretty close to what you had mentioned. So that's why it's a fun spin. I'm going to look for attitude first. So if I take out entitlement, right? If I take out a more passive, melancholy life is all lack. I look for a more driven person, right? I'm not saying that expertise is not something you should look for. I'm simply saying if someone has all of the talent and the experience, but they don't have the drive, they have the entitlement, then you still failed because you didn't pick attitude. And if you do pick attitude, There's pros and cons to having different levels of experience, but that is going to be what I go for first. When I'm hiring a client success manager, account manager on behalf of an agency, I'm actually looking for emotional intelligence as the number one thing that I'm seeking. If they have experience, fantastic. But we're going to teach them our structures anyways. If you have really high EI, you're going to have drive. You're going to have a great outlook on life. You're going to be emotionally open to how other people are reacting, which is ultimately in that role super duper important. And if they have the expertise, that's great. Then we'll add to it and complement it. If they don't have it and they have the right attitude, they're going to race ahead of almost everybody else.
When you're hiring, how do you find that emotional intelligence? Because I feel like one of the challenges that most people run into is I'm talking to this person over Zoom, but there's only so much I can pick up, especially with limited tools or experiences at my exposed disposal, questions that I may be able to ask. But what's the framework look like? And then are there any little hacks you use along the way to really help you out?
Yeah. So one of the most simple ways to test for it is to ask situational questions where you're dealing with somebody that is almost emotionless. So the example that I've often used in our interviews, and you'll appreciate this coming from the dental space, is it's the secretary with the glass door that's only open this much at the office, right? It's just enough to put your insurance card back and forth through, right? Say you're encountering that person on an onboarding call and they're making eye contact. They're not coming on Zoom, right? They're only giving you the yips and the ums, right? Just like the absolute shortest conversation pieces possible. How are you going to approach that situation? Because the doctor is paying the marketing bill. Doctor needs you to help drive a result, but you have this barrier in front of you. Some people will answer that thousands of different ways. A very emotionally intelligent person is going to recognize that you need them to engage. So I'm going to do whatever I can to love her up, to give her a gift, to get her on there so I can see how her new hair looks, right? Or can she take me on a tour of or they're gonna find something that gets you farther, right? It's like that Navy SEAL under the wire, barbed wire in the sand kind of idea. They're just gonna keep grinding on it. Someone that doesn't have that is probably gonna really struggle making a human connection. They're gonna go, maybe we should just fire this person. Well, one, that's not an option. Unfortunately, there's always one of those people in every practice, or they're just going to, they've never been asked that question before in an interview. And that's more my style when we're interviewing is they are going to prepare for what everyone else does. If you ask questions that there's 0% chance that they can prepare for, then what you're really doing is you're testing their on the spur of the moment response, their instincts. And that's where I think emotional intelligence lives is, can you make that connection with that person? And for a client facing role that for us, our client success managers might be responsible for 80, 95,000 in recurring revenue a month. They're very valuable to our agency. You cannot have an emotionless person. You remember dentists, like how many times do they want to come on camera? They don't, right? Whatever strategies you can do to get them on for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, now they're paying attention. You make eye contact, you can get the deliverable out of them. I want to see someone that has that resourcefulness. Otherwise, we're going to see a candidate that's just average. And average is probably fine for other agencies, just not for our client.
Got it. So that's the CSM question. Get them to describe how they would deal with this emotionless Karen, or let's not call them a Karen, but you get the point.
I use Tara. Tara is usually the common name.
Hey guys, just jumping in here to give you a quick word on our sponsor, High Level, before we get back to the interview. If you don't know already, High Level is the top sales and marketing solution for any business, but particularly agency owners or anybody that needs a software product to resell to their existing customer base. It has everything you need to capture, nurture, and close leads for marketing clients. And the best part is High Level believes in not taxing the agencies on its platform, so you can get unlimited clients for one low flat monthly fee. The best features include a CRM, funnel, website and email builders, course hosting platform, robust marketing automation builder, a consolidated chat stream with WhatsApp, email, SMS, Instagram DMs, and Facebook DMs, reputation management, social media posting, tracking and analytics, and so much more. And as if that wasn't enough, High Level is fully white labeled, meaning that you can take the platform and put your own brand on the desktop and mobile app and resell it to your industry for whatever price you want. Essentially, what High Level has done is brought the bar for starting a software company way lower so normal people like you and I can help our clients with an amazingly robust software without paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in development costs. I am not kidding when I say hands down, High Level is my favorite software of all time. It has been integral to my success with my agency. It helped me increase my clients' results and retention, and I use it every single day for my own business. And if you sign up for High Level today, not only will you get a 30-day free trial, which is not available on their website, but you'll get all of the bonuses listed at itskeaton.com/mastermind, which gets you support, templates, and courses to kickstart your high level journey and get those first few clients or scale to your next few clients. If you're already a high level customer, you can also get all of those bonuses by upgrading to the next highest plan underneath my link. Instructions for that are also at itskeaton.com/mastermind. What if this person is more on the back end? So they're running ads, they're only interfacing with you and your business partner and a couple other people on the team. Are you still asking those kind of situational questions, and are you still looking for high EI, or how does the hiring process change in that case?
Yep. So for technical roles, we're asking a lot more technical questions, right? If I was hiring someone interested in working in our advertising team, I'm going to ask questions like, to you, how do you determine between cold and warm traffic? If someone, again, controversial, I'll just put up the word bad leads on the screen. Be like, how does that make you feel? And I'm very passionate about that. If you've ever heard me speak at events, I don't think there's anything such as a bad lead. I think what we're talking about is intent quality, because quality is like subjective. That means you can ask like 10 clients, what does that mean? They'll give you a different answer. Intent, what they're really saying to you is they're not in the buying phase of where we expected them to be. If I get an advertising person, say they got a marketing background, BCom, say they've been a media buyer for a period of time, and we all know that everyone considers themselves some copywriter or media buyer, they should be able to articulate their style, their approach, what's important to them. A lot of us aren't talking about the 4Ps anymore, but I'll ask that question for them. I'll say, hey, here's two. What are the other two? They don't know that. It's not a deal breaker. It's just, it tells me they're not thinking in that way. Placement to them just is digital, right? Rather than reels versus static post, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to pay, which a lot of them want to be paid, I need to know that they have the capability of thinking outside of the box. Otherwise, all they're doing is just using the ad library to copy what everyone else is doing. And our approach is very much to innovate rather than to just do what everyone else is doing.
Got it. So those 4 Ps, let's see if I remember from my high school marketing class: price, product. I can't remember the last two.
Promotion and
Promo-
placement.
Promotion and placement. Okay, yeah.
And then the fifth one that kind of came out in the late 2000s is the person, right? So it's your avatar development, right? So you can have all of these amazing Ps, but if it's speaking to the wrong avatar, the wrong person, then ultimately it's not going to be successful. That's where kind of irresistible offer was a little bit of don't listen to the guru, become yourself, because that's not in any of the books.
Yeah.
And the offer is a blend of promotion, right, and price and product. But a lot of the time, I really work with my advertising team to sit there and break down two different headlines. Why is the patient reacting to it differently? It's probably because of one of these rather than the irresistible offer. It's more, listen, it's a great book. It's just simplified down for an audience that probably wants to consume something a little bit more simple. I think it has great lessons in it. It's just not as advanced as I think it should be. I think there's a higher level conversation for him to have with the audience.
Fair. I think a lot of people just read the easiest thing and then missed the entire rest of it, which is really the basis of the book, is write down everything you could do, then go back and decide which ones are the most value and the least amount, or the amount of work that you're willing to put in, and then build your product based on that, or build your offer based on that. And everybody instead is just saying, oh, I can just offer the exact same thing and say it's guaranteed at the end. I'm good to go.
And listen, guarantees, it's almost like our parents' generation. It's been an entire generation since really people brought it back. One of the things that I've really enjoyed is my dad bought a stove like 5 years ago, and he's like cutting some coupon and mailing it in. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? He's, oh, it's a rebate. I was like, oh, when's the last time any of us have used a rebate, right? It's a great promotion to be using. Guess what we do? Use a ton of those, right? Guarantee just came back. That's why I laughed about Tommy Boy, right? Because I think the line is guarantee's only as good as the paper it's written on, which is true, right? And if you don't know that movie, it's because you're at a different generation. You haven't watched it since, but it is a great epic line. Every time people talk about guarantees, that scene floats in my head. And I think about whoever that actor is going to Chris Farley and being like, yeah, that still makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So you're sourcing these CSMs. You guys place anybody else besides CSMs?
We don't. No, there's so many great agencies that do hiring placements. That is really our jam. That is our expertise. That I mean, I think we've done almost 100 in a year and a half in
Wow.
terms of placements. There's great fractional companies out there that offer, hey, you pay them and they place the person and they do all of that sort of stuff. My clients are coming to me wanting to own the talent. They're just coming to us because we can both find, develop, train, and mentor. And then it's a little bit of a fractional approach where they can keep coming back to us for continuous improvement and coaching. So I have 4 senior client success managers that are part of our mentorship program. So say they're struggling with onboarding clients or upsells or just having a really hard time generating referrals or something like that, they can come back to us for like tune-ups.
Okay. So it's a mentorship program combined with the CSM placement.
So it's a weird model, but it makes sense if I explain it this way. When I went through nursing school, we do almost 4 years of education, not just in class, but hands-on. So it's called called a preceptor. You're given opportunities throughout your training to be precepted by somebody that's far senior, very experienced, and shows you how to do everything. When I went into corporate, what was interesting to me was that was the life I'd been in for 10 years. So they were like, here's a training manual. There's your computer. We'll see you later. And I thought to myself, this is really stupid. You would actually be far better investing in that person, not just in the manual, but like with whoever the senior person is, right? And actually like going through and mentoring them, but not just doing that for 6 weeks, but I'm still close to some of my nursing mentors now 15 years later. And it always stuck with me that if I ever had the opportunity to show all the HR people that they were wrong, that was the model that I wanted to do. So AGT, our hiring agency, does exactly that. We basically train those account managers for 4 weeks. Then when they go into whatever agency they're hired by, we are still there mentoring them, just like a preceptor would in medical school.
I see. Okay. And are they paying you for the opportunity to be trained up to become a better CSM? And then you're also making money from the placement? Or how does the business, like, how do the economics work for you guys?
Yep. Economics, unfortunately, are completely on the agency. That's the investment. If someone's willing to put that type of investment of quality, and again, we're not talking about a huge investment. It's very cost effective because we have scale and efficiency and all that sort of stuff. But if you're willing to invest somewhere, say between $4,000 and $7,000 into a hire, which I think most people are in our positions with good agencies. So we're talking most of the time agencies above 40K a month are looking for this type of person to take over all the client communication, onboarding. We have a beautiful job scorecard that we give to the agencies. That's a very reasonable investment. Imagine investing $7,000 into an individual that's going to be responsible for close to 800,000 in revenue that your agency is going to generate in a year. I'll take that any day.
100%.
Not only that, but what's our cost to acquire in sales? It's usually pretty high. If this person's helping to generate referrals and reviews and things, they're invaluable to your agency.
Yeah, definitely. And where are the CSMs coming from? Are they all stateside or are you going overseas?
I would love to do it all stateside. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get these Gen Zs to show up for an interview. And they all think they're owed $95,000 as soon as they graduate from school. So we do US based placements. We actually do quite a bit in Canada because our dollar is about $1.35, which is great on the conversion side. I would say 70% we do out of Latin America and elsewhere in the world. Again, strong English skills. My approach has always been I don't care where they are. I just want the best goddamn person I can find. You have to maybe be a little bit conscious of time zones so people aren't falling asleep and yawning on client calls. But yeah, I would say we do a lot of North America, Latin America. I have 17 South Africans on my team. So we don't have only South Africa, but very good work ethic, Commonwealth country. So they speak really good English and really, really well educated.
Yeah, that's great. So you are taking people that have never been in digital marketing and training them up within 4 weeks to be able to handle a client load of 20 clients or so for these new agencies, or these are not new agencies, but agencies doing 40K a month and above, or are these people coming with some sort of background?
So it depends on so we have what we call client success associate. client success manager, account associate, account manager, depends on the agency that you're coming into. If we were hiring someone right out of school with a BCom, they've got a bachelor's of commerce, they have a really good foundation. They're probably coming in as an associate, meaning that in medicine, we call it a scribe. They're doing a lot of documentation, agendas, emails, follow-ups. You might have a more senior person or still the agency owner for 4 months on those calls, starting to transition and train that person up. Client success manager, account manager is probably coming already with experience in customer service. One of the secrets that I've had a lot of success with is people that work on very high-end yachts, right? So they're used to putting the ice cubes into Jennifer Lopez's drink on one of the yachts. And the way that they have to organize their day, organize the client, all of the little things, the documentation, translations really well over to the digital side. Some of them will need tune-ups on the strategy, but that's usually, again, one of the hallmarks that I'll work with clients on is if you need an account manager to do a custom strategy on every client, you don't have an agency, you have 50 custom clients, right? And I'm a very big fan of making it streamlined. So on my team, as an example, I have a dedicated strategist on my client success team. Their job is to talk about the promotions or the campaign changes or anything like that. My client success team is very well educated in marketing, but we have the strategist for that specific reason.
I see. Okay. And the course that you're putting them through in order to be ready to be placed, what's the secret sauce there that they're learning that these other CSMs that somebody might just get off the market wouldn't have?
Well, that would be like a whole other podcast to talk about. But I'll give an example. So when you and I both had a dental agency, right? So sometimes we get on calls and we say, "Hey, what do you want to cover? What do you want to talk about?" And the client will do what's called bushwhacking, right? They sit in the bush and they're like, "I want to talk about this." And you're not prepared for it. The really big things that we teach is when you're having that client call, there's a request for an agenda. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to review? What do you want to cover? If the client comes to that call and asks for something else, if we have the preparation and we are equipped to answer it, we absolutely will. But if not, it'll be on a follow-up item later. And I just always find that agency owners, because we're so dynamic, we're the unicorns, we can get on those client calls and jam with the client on any topic of things. But when we go to someone other than us, there's a drop in performance. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that's why they're not an agency owner. We want an account manager to be confident, capable, and able to do the job. So if we don't give them the right structures, they're going to struggle. And for a lot of agencies, that's where they come to me and they say, I need an account manager that knows SEO and website. And I'm like, whoa, maybe you actually have a little bit of a structure problem in how you're doing your client calls. Let's fix that first. And if we do need to school them up a little bit on some of that stuff, great. Or maybe it's just your structure is going to fix all the problems that you have. Because then you can go to your ad team and say, client wants to know about this. Hey, SEO team, client wants to know about this. Now that account manager is delivering information rather than being responsible for generating the information.
Yeah,
So that would be like a good example of one core module that we teach on.
got it. Very cool. And the structure that you recommend to most agencies, and I assume that you guys follow as well, is you've got the back end team specializing in each vertical of marketing. So you've got the paid ads team, you've got the SEO team, you've got the Google team, and then you have the front facing clients, which are these CSMs that are the bridge between the tech people and the client, correct?
Yep. So assume that you're using mostly white label, right? The reason that we have the agenda structure in place is we first white labeled everything, like most agencies do, right?
Hmm.
If you're on a call with a client and they have a question that can only be answered by the white label team, good luck getting that answer right in that moment, right? So then it would be like, clients, it's been 2 days and I haven't heard back. And no offense to the white label agencies, they're busy too. It might take them 2 days to get an answer back to you. Whereas if we say to the client today on Thursday, hey, Monday's call, right? What are the additional things that you want to cover? If they're like, can we go through my domain ranking and blah, 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 blah. We have time to go to the white label agency and say, can I get context, update, insight into this? Then it looks like we're freaking ballers when we get to the call because we have everything that's there. The big thing that I learned in nursing was patients have no idea what to expect if they have no idea what to expect. So the more that you prepare them for things, the better they behave. Clients are no different. If we don't know what they're expecting, you and I can get into that gunfight with them because we're actually better equipped. But someone who's 70% of our equal, they're going to get crucified, essentially. They're not going to come out of that call successful.
So true. Okay, so moving on, now that we understand this structure, which I think is super helpful for a lot of beginners that may be listening to this, like that is the best way to do it. Hiring somebody that's both going to be on tech and going to be on client interaction is a recipe for a lot of inefficiency. And while they may understand what they're doing a little bit better, it's not a recipe for a super scalable model. However, when it comes to retention, what I'm really interested in learning from you is, first of all, what results do we have to generate? And how much is it actually the results that keep people on board? And are there other factors in there? And how can somebody set someone up from the very beginning to stay on for 2, 3, 4, or 5 years?
It will depend on the sales process in terms of the expectations the client comes with and the expectations that were set. But for us, some of our OKRs, as an example for client success, I'm really transparent with, right? As soon as we want to go live within 5 days. From the moment that we have the welcome call, not the contract, sometimes clients will take a week off, but the moment that they have the welcome call, we expect ads to be live within 5 business days. Because as the billing starts, okay, depending on where you're doing the billing, the client has an outcome and a value in mind, right? And my job for my client success team is to determine what is that outcome and what is that value. Because if we don't know, we're guessing, right? Good luck. Once that ad campaign is live, so essentially 7 days from the welcome call is when we want our first prepaid book patient. Because then we can say proof. We have their money, which shows intent. The person is booked, and because we're usually collecting at least $100 to $300, their ass is going to show up, which is great. And that really just reduces both the anxiety and helps to reduce the expectations and helps to add the value right away. And then we just keep cranking it. And that's all that our team obsesses about. If we have to launch 4 funnels to get that first patient in the 7 days, that's what we will do. And again, if you have a dialed in system with a market, got great creatives, so your 4 Ps, because you're not just doing an irresistible offer, then all of a sudden it's a really easy transition. Now, that being said, we are selfish. We hook up GHL to the website, to all their tracking phone numbers, to their Google business profile. So when we're using that appointment booking concierge, as we call it, any call that comes in, we are booking for them. We are taking credit and we're being like, boom, this person gave us money. Because most of these clients have been convinced by some other marketing agency that to do a free consult or a free offer. That's not what they want, right? They want that high intent, high desire paying patient. And if we can do that, we know from our statistics that we're going to get them to that $25,000 lifetime value really quickly, ideally in the first 4 months. And that's when we start looking for the referrals, right? We look for the relationships with whatever medical devices they have inside of the practice and stuff like that. That's how we've been fortunate enough to get the joint ventures that we have.
So the I want to come back to that joint venture with the medical devices, et cetera. But I love, love, love this thing about the prepaid appointments, especially in industries where the culture is free. So how do you spin that up? That let's take my former niche for an example. Orthodontist, it's always free. They call the next orthodontist down the street. It's going to be a free consult. How do you spin up a prepaid patient who, by the way, for anyone listening, the best way to gauge desire to transact is to just ask somebody to transact. And then if they transact, that they have money to spend on the bigger thing. But yeah, how do you spin that up in a niche where it's not considered kosher from the beginning to have something that's paid?
So don't listen to your guru, become one. So I'll ask you a question. Orthodontic practice, best avatar. Your orthodontist would have paid for it every single day. It's probably SUV driving Mercedes mom of 2 teenagers, both of which need braces.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. So we got that avatar, right? Is she working full time or maybe 3/4 time?
She's probably not working.
So who's she paying the money with? Not hers, dad's, right?
Yeah.
Is she a med spa type of person, right? Is she going to get her massage and her hair? Like her hair transactions are probably not $100 at first choice cuts, right? She's probably going to a salon and spending at least $400 to $600. When she goes to that salon, Keaton, is she needing to put a credit card down the first time?
Yeah.
If she books a flight or a hotel, she need to put her credit card down first.
Yep.
So now if we're asking for that, is it outside of the norm for that person? It's just a normal part of their everyday business, right? If I'm talking to what I call a Walmart Wanda, and I'm saying, hey, it's a $50 refundable deposit on your credit card to see the doctor for this 2-for-1 orthodontic special that we have for your teenagers with all the reviews and everything else we have, that Walmart Wanda couldn't care. She's, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go to the free person. But that orthodontist that we have all of those moms coming through, right? Because he's the best, or she's the best, I should say, should be. That is, again, when you're marketing at that level for that type of client,
Mm.
then it just comes down to the rest of the P's, right? And making sure that the team is convinced and convincing and all that other stuff. So maybe that mom as an example, and we used to do this all the time. She probably saw when you grocery shopping, you see a little ad in the cart at the end and stuff like that. I used to do tons of those for orthodontists because, again, where were those moms shopping? The high-end grocery stores, Whole Foods, and other things like that. Is it the dads doing it? No way, man. Like they're sitting in the car listening to ESPN or something like that, right? But they see the orthodontist. Here's the promotion. Here's all my reviews. I'm the best. Is money as much of a concern for them? No, they just want the best for their kids because where are their kids going? Ivy school.
Yeah.
So that's the type of time I spend with my strategist at our agency, sitting down and thinking, whether we're talking about boobs or bums or tummy tucks or any of that other sort of stuff, what is really inspiring that person? And now the deposit actually doesn't become that much of a barrier. It just becomes part of the actual experience that person was expecting already.
Yeah. I love that. It's an avatar problem, not really a industry problem.
Bad leads, like I said, we're talking about intent.
So I want to back this up again because I know there's someone listening to this that said, "Okay, I tried this, the $50 refundable deposit, and all the leads. Like I called them all. I had situations like this. Like we would generate them, we'd try to get them to give the credit card, and the Walmart Wandos would hang up, but it seemed 9 out of 10 were Walmart Wandas. How do we make the intent of the lead from the beginning a little bit higher? Does that just have to do with copy, positioning, talking about the quality versus the price or any other factor? What advice can you give there?
Yeah, a lot. It's the entire experience, right? If I know the avatar I want, I also need to know the avatar I don't want, right? So again, let's pick any random promotions, right? Let's say it's a free Apple Watch with an Invisalign or something like that. Our most successful when we were in dental, which again, feel free to copy this because you don't do it anymore, was we would take a picture of the orthodontist or the dentist smiling, maybe even in scrubs, with a perfect patient avatar beside them, that mom and the teen being like, hey, look at us. We had this great experience. Okay. Now, again, what's in the background? It's a nice office. Is it Walmart? No. Is everyone there looking like they're a little higher end than Wanda is? Yeah. So is Wanda, and it's probably a little bit more expensive than I can afford? Yes. Is she applying for that ad? She is not. The mom, though, that wants the best for her kids, that is also, oh, little Johnny needs a new Apple Watch and stuff like that. And I was going to go see an orthodontist anyways. That's the person that's getting pulled in. And a lot of the time, what we're trying to do too is we do this in plastic surgery too. Our promotion and our messaging is going to totally depend on the avatar that we generate. I wouldn't sit there and say, example, if you're doing a $10,000 breast augmentation, right, versus $2,500 off versus pick your payment, you're going to get 3 totally different populations responding to that. And that's why I'm saying like the irresistible offer, that's why I probably like it worked to generate volume, right? But then the clients would still struggle. Why? Because they've got this mix that's not really their typical clientele. And that's why you need a more sophisticated marketing message than just crazy guarantees and things like that. Again, we can get the clients, but then you also have to get them the results.
Yeah. And leading with that price up front, like you said, the $10,000 versus the amount off versus whatever else the third one could be. Again, immediately disqualifies the Walmart Wanda. Love her, but she's not going to be the one clicking on that ad if the price tag is right there.
So I'll give a great example for anyone doing aesthetics. If you do price per unit for Botox, the Walmart Wandas are going to flood all over the place. If you do bank your talks, and banking the talks is you get this much for $500, none of them are signing up because they don't have the $500.
Yeah.
So guess what my number one promotion is? Something at that higher end. And it's just understanding what an offer does to generate the outcomes. And a lot of time you have to, like we did, both you and I, we had to experiment with that to find what works. And you have to have that drive, like we talked about. Stop paying attention to the guru. Go actually go do the work. And even if you're just doing that through the ad library, go get 3 or 4 really great ideas, deploy it. What happens on your specific client? It's going to be different too, sometimes depending on the market.
Yeah, I'm loving this because you're one of the few people out there that I know is just like 100% real with all this stuff. And you've got the years of private equity experience, like hands on patient experience to back it up. So, following up on this, another common, my clients aren't getting results because of this things is they're not calling the leads. Very common. Somebody who's not in the position to hire a call center or bring in a caller right at this point and wants to coach the office on this, what would you say to them? And then what would you say to the person who needs to build a nimble follow up team to help the client on a budget? How do they do that?
Okay, so we'll deal with part 1 first, right? So I'm assuming you've heard of the Harvard study about how fast. I think Paulson talks about it all the time. I know Robin has too. It's a really interesting conversation that people don't have when they quote that study. So let's assume, and I can't quote it off the top of my head, but it's something like 85% or 90% of the leads go cold after 5 minutes. I always ask the question to my clients, why is that happening? So a lead comes in, you call them at 6 minutes and it goes cold. Why?
I have been having some thoughts on this recently.
I'll tell you what I think is because I have the data to prove it with my clients. They're
I want to
calling
hear yours because
they're
mine,
calling
mine's going to be
yeah,
conjecture.
they're calling the next business. And if that business was successful getting them on the phone, that's why you're not getting a hold of them because they may have booked there already. They may already be more compelled and spending more time on the website and having a greater experience. So what ends up happening, and I've seen this in the data going back even pre-COVID when Brett and I had started, right, is your no-show rates are higher. Why? Because you were the second appointment that they already went somewhere else and saw someone else, right? So
Mhm.
that really signifies the behavior. I'm going to Google or I'm on Facebook, I'm a lead, and we tend to think very like individualist in North America, like we're the center of the universe, right?
Mhm.
So if you think of your business as the center of the universe, this is where it's flawed. Patient calls in or patient generates a lead. Are they just going, okay, I'm waiting for Keaton's team to give me a call back and I'll just sit here by the phone for the next 12 minutes? No, they reached out to you when it was convenient for them.
Yeah.
Now the chase becomes you got to try to get a hold of them when it's convenient for you. Do you understand how much of a nightmare that is? That's why we love SEO. That's why we love Google because the intent is like the freaking highest that we can get. It's like a walk-in. When you have a dental practice and they don't accept walk-ins, are you crazy? Find a way to get that person in the door. That's my belief system. And that's how we built our team very successfully is if that call comes through, we answer within 20 seconds. That is our benchmark. On average, we're somewhere between 18 and 22 seconds on an inbound call. That's how important it is. Industry average, 90 seconds, which that's average. Okay. So it means, yes, some people are doing better. A lot of people are doing worse. My belief system strongly is you're missing that lead because they've already moved on. And that's why they went cold. Again, feel free to prove me wrong, but that makes sense when you look at the data, you look at the study, you read about what they were looking at. They didn't go farther down the rabbit hole. We can have this conversation. I know you want to know about no-shows and stuff, and I'm very well reversed in the research and no-shows too. But that to me, when I explain that to a client, they understand and get that. Because for my clientele, hyper competitive. So they're like, screw that. We're not having them call anyone else. We're going to use your call center.
Yeah. So you use their competitiveness against them. If you're not hiring the call center, or say, yeah, use our call center because Tara at the front desk is probably going to screw this up. I hate to break it to you.
Or she's going to laugh and talk about what she did on the weekend with her girlfriend. Listen, you've been in practices too, right? They're all kind of like, oh, and the phone's ringing. It's someone.
I remember on our first call that we had, you were like, I like working with doctors because I know all the stuff they pull that they won't tell. I know you turn off your phone for 2 hours in the middle of the day. I know you.
They locked the door.
Yeah, lock the door.
They locked, I still remember I had my fertility practice. It was like day 3. Okay. And I was up at the front desk and I was trying to look at referrals and they walked at 12:01 to the door and they locked it. And I said, what are you doing? They said, we're going to lunch. I was like, why are you locking the door? We're going to go into the back room for whatever it was, 90 minutes or something like that. And we don't want to be disturbed. I was like, if someone comes to pay their bill, they'll have to come back. I'm like, and they thought I was crazy. But I was like, like patient-centered care is if you're going on lunch because you're on lunch. That door's that. Listen, I understand that everyone wants to have their lunch. I'm not like a horrible person, but I want to take their money. If someone comes in here asking a question, I am paying you to take that person as a patron. Let's go.
Yeah. You've got that American customer service in you. There, my wife's from Ireland, and she always says, "I hate this and this about America, but the customer service."
Great.
And yeah, I get it. Everybody wants that nice lifestyle, but if you want to grow, you have to act like you want to grow. Okay, so now version 2, I'm a agency owner with 3 clients. I have a client going through this right now. I have 3 clients. One of them wants a call center, maybe needs it, can't really decide. They're getting like some free, they're doing free consults and all of them are no showing and they're trying to diagnose what the issue is. And they think it's the front desk lady who just despises the marketing team. So they want to bring somebody in, but it's probably just for 1 or 2 clients. What's the best way to get up and running with something like that?
So to me, this is exactly what we did day one when we started it. And remember, I told you this, like everyone said, don't do the call center. They said it was a really bad idea. I was like, oh, I think they're wrong. I think this is going to be really successful, which it's great margin business. So say you're going to do this for 3 to 4 clients. Say you're even going to cover the cost, right? Say you happen to have a $700 buffer in your agency where you can afford to do it. Grab someone from Latin America, bilingual. You're literally going to post an appointment booking specialist, American accent. That's exactly what you're going to post. It's unfortunately going to be someone who was deported by Trump's team and is now living somewhere else, but that's fine. We're not judging. And what you're going to say to the client is the following. We're going to offer the service and we're going to prove to you that this is effective. We still want Tara or Karen at the front desk to make a call. Okay. But what we're going to ask is that any calls that she misses, they come directly to this person. And what we'll do is we'll measure the success after 60 days. Fair? Great. The reality is you're going to beat Karen to every single one of those leads every single time, right? So it's not even like we need one or the other, right? Karen's just not going to pick up the phone and make the phone call, right? And the reality is that she's doing this, looking at the phone the whole time that it goes. So immediately what you're going to say to the client is, hey, Mr. Client, we had 200 phone calls come to us last week. Are you sure Karen's doing her job? We would love to be able to answer all of those, but fortunately, we actually need to have a second person if we're going to do that. Would you like us to send them to voicemail, knowing that they're probably calling another practice, or would you like us to answer? And that was the fastest way for us to add our second and third agent, was doing that. So for most of our clients, we are calling our own leads, but we're also doing all of their overflow because a call that's answered, talk about the Harvard study, right? We talk about MIT, I think there's 5 or 6 of them now. And we say, hey, do you understand that that's money just going goodbye? Dentists are perfect examples too all the time. They'll say, we had 30 new patients last month. We had a great month. They'll say, wonderful. How many did you miss? Because 30 tells me nothing. 30 tells me like what you converted. What if it was 170 that you missed? You're not going to invest in my $500 a month agent service or whatever you decide to price it at. To me, it was the easiest solution to provide. We have about 65% of our clients on our call center.
Nice. And when you say it's high margin, what do you guys sell it at? And what are the economics on the back end?
It's my secret. I can't tell you that. 35% profit. So we have a mix of mostly Latin America and South Africa. We have a little bit of Philippines in there because we're 24 hours because we work the time zones really nicely. Okay. We get paid on a base. And then just Decompuso is a great person to speak with as well from Dedicated Office. She's a great white label partner. If you need somebody as well when you're starting out, just a shout out to Adi. It's a price per minute after that. And what that allows you to do is obviously cover your labor. And then pretty much anything that you're using on top of that is going to be almost entirely profit. For us, I would say our per minute cost is probably somewhere around 70 cents. And we're charging north of $2.
Sweet. And are you just manually or automatically rebilling that through GHL, or how do you manage the?
Beautiful thing with GHL, if you go into your agency settings, is they did this about 6 months ago after I asked them many times to do it. They have all of the talk time already calculated for you on every sub account. You just have to pick your time ranges, and that we send a screenshot to each client, which is bill it directly through Stripe.
Cool. So you're not actually marking up the telephony costs. You're obviously billing that as well, but you're not. You're just billing once a month for the minutes that you did.
Now, some clients won't use all of their minutes. I would say our average client, they're probably getting billed an additional $700 a month for the volume. You do that across the 34, 35 clients that we're offering that service for right now. plus you're already profitable on the base, it becomes a very profitable business unit for you.
Got it. The biggest challenge I had in when we had our call center was quality assurance, and that comes with hiring the right people, obviously, but what processes do you have in place to make sure that the right scripts are being followed? And is there a fair amount of overhead with those managers of the callers type thing?
For our team, we have a team of 17 agents. We have 2 virtual assistants that are dedicated, say $1,200 a month is pretty much what I pay for those, just to audit calls. Every agent has to submit their 2 best, their 2 worst, and then there's some random number generator that my team uses for like how many regular calls should be audited. Any client complaints are audited automatically anyways. And then we have a really simple scorecard. Happy to share it with everyone here. It's a score out of 25, and it's, did we nail the greeting? So it's the practice name, gratitude, hey, thanks for calling, and use your name. The second component of that, worth a couple points, is did you use their name 3 times? So did you get their name? And then did you build the connections? Did you place the pain? That's normal for all of us. We all understand that needs to be part of the script. Did you give confidence and tell that person that you can help them? After that, it just comes down to, did you execute the appointment if they were interested in booking it properly? And did you get the deposit? And anytime that they score less than 18 out of 25, they go to training. I have a dedicated trainer because our team's obviously big enough now. And we have training sessions every single day. And they have to go and they have to nail it at least 3 times with the trainer, and then they come back. And that just helps. Very similar to a really strict sales team. Hormozy has done this many times with his sales teams on his podcast, and he's talked about it, where if they're just drilling every single day. This is the script, it's automatic, it sounds natural, but if you're letting them wing it, results are going to be all over the place. So that's one really key thing. The other thing when we're hiring them is we actually give them the script and we ask them to follow it on a Loom video. So we say, this is the script, follow it for 2 or 3 minutes so we can hear tonality, accent, how crisp they are. If you do not do this video, you will not be evaluated for this position. It says it very clearly in the job posting. And we'll have people that will email about an update, and I'll be like, you didn't send a Loom video. I don't care who you are.
Seriously, though, like if you're listening to this somehow and you're trying to get a job and there's a requirement to submit a Loom video, just do it.
Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. How's your retention on those reps?
Really good. Really good. So the downside to this is you do have to pay them well, which is why you've got to nail your pricing, right? We, for a long time, were charging $1,000 a month as a base. That was still very profitable for us, even at the size that we are at. But I think the usage is really important because you're going to have some clients that use more, some clients that use less. The big thing that we did as well is we determined probably in the first 6 months, Keaton, that we had like our overachievers like you do with any sales team. And that's how I think of them. I think of them as customer service, but business development reps. So we hire business development reps essentially to do our calls. Our average performers, like they would hang out around like 8, 9 bookings instead of getting to 10 or 11. So I was like, okay, they need an incentive to get to 10. So we were like, cool. Every time you hit 10, here's the bonus that you get 10 bookings, get a bonus.
10 bookings in a day.
No, sorry, in a week. Because
Okay.
when you're trying to book for a $20,000 procedure, it's a little bit more. The booking rate's going to be a little bit less than maybe for booking an orthodontic one. But you could use that, say you're in a high volume chiropractic business agency, or you're doing this for roofers. It's just whatever you think the output should be, right? You want to dangle an incentive. So for us, it was like the middle group struggled to get to 10. Then we saw it after a couple of weeks that they were doing really well, but they were at 16, 17 on average. And I was like, okay, I'm going to incentivize 20. We actually just had an agent for the very first time hit 54 bookings. So I only had incentives up to the 40th, and I had to create a new tier. So what does that do? That incentivizes them to know when an inbound call comes in, they're going to answer that call because we know that the booking chance is about 24% on that inbound call. If they have to call out all day, it's maybe like 3 to 6%, right? So immediately it incentivizes them. They get off a call, there's another one coming in, boom, I want to answer it, right? Because he did really well on the week that's a week, right? So they still have the other 3 weeks of the month to get their incentives. So you're still paying them a good hourly wage. We're just saying to them, hey, you're telling me you want to make 30% more. Here's the ability for you to make 30% more. And it comes down to following the script, getting the deposits, being really good on their audits, and obviously being available, not going to the bathroom for smoke breaks and all this other sort of stuff. And every single one of them has a screenshot software. So we know exactly what they're doing during the 8 hours that they're working for us.
Got it. And the deposits that you guys collect, do you end up getting any of that as an agency to help you?
We don't. No, we just do a straight pass through. GHL has a great Stripe integration. If we collect $100, it's $100 that goes straight to the client's account. We could, but honestly, we mark up our Twilio 1.4. And I feel really good about where we're not squeezing our clients in any appropriate way. And it's actually a selling feature because that question comes up a lot in terms of take anything off the top. We don't. We collect 100, it goes right in minus Stripe fees. I just figure that I'll get them on a referral or I'll get a testimonial out of them that's going to be worth whatever I try to grab on the other side.
Okay. And they're all deposits for these aesthetics practices, not like a down payment before coming in.
For a lot of them, for us, that would go directly towards their treatment. So it is I use deposits in your instance because dental is a different industry. But for our clients, if we're collecting a $300 consult fee, that's the fee of the consult. It's $300 to see the doctor. And if you decide to go through with the treatment, that 300 will be applied to whatever your procedure costs.
Okay. But it's not refundable.
Going in for a medical spa, $50. That no person's coming in for anything less than $50. So that's going towards whatever the treatment is going to be.
Got it. But the 300 is refundable or is not for these big $20,000 procedures?
It's not refundable.
Okay.
So we say to them, it's a non-refundable. We don't like calling them fees. Americans aren't really responsive to fees and taxes. But we do say it's a non-refundable deposit.
Canadians, on the other hand, love fees and taxes. Is that right?
They love it. We're just indifferent to them, right? It's part of our life.
Oh man, what a way to put it. Okay, I love this. I love the setup. One more question about the call center. The Eliza platform, if you're not familiar with high level, to anyone listening, puts all of your sub accounts into one chat flow. Anybody that's a rep is looking at everything. They can see the sequence from all of their accounts without having to switch between accounts. Do you set that up where everybody's just assigned to every single account and it doesn't matter where they came in? They just take the next one? Or is each rep assigned to individual accounts?
So we're built a little differently at 17 agents now than we were originally. So we have two teams. One is dedicated to inbound. So their sole job every single day is to be available for inbound. So that's the fast response. If we're in a lull, maybe like around this time of the day, 'cause it tends to be a little quiet for some of the practices on the East Coast, then they'll go into GHL and work any of the leads manually. And then we have an outbound team that is 100% dedicated to being inside of Eliza. And those leads come through and they're texting them right away, or they're calling them right away, or they're trying to get a hold of them right away, or they're programming it to come back in the next day for a second call. That way, if our inbound team gets too overloaded and busy, we can always pull somebody from the outbound team to come in and answer those inbound calls because they're high priority. And that's how we have it organized right now, is that we have about 7 of the 17 sitting on inbound at any given time. The outbound team is there, and it's been a busy January so far for us. So I think most days we've been having about 13, 14 sitting in inbound.
And each rep is not assigned to individual accounts. They're just trained to understand. Whatever this one comes from, I just say I'm from that practice. And I have a sheet that maybe has a few things that are different about this practice that I need to mention in the case that they ask where it's located or something else like that.
One of the really cool features about Eliza is it has an FAQ section. When that lead comes through assigned to Dr. Jones's practice, we have all the FAQs already built. The address, directions, promotions, how we book into their EHR, all of that stuff is automatically programmed. We also have a Google sheet for every practice backed up in case it ever went down. Obviously, we're still getting the calls, but we have that there. But as I click on Dr. Jones, I then click on Dr. Smith, I just have to read whatever my script is that's there, and all the particulars are there for each. So we do have teams dedicated. We have a couple really big clients where I might have 3 of those agents dedicated to that client exclusively, but most of them are cross-trained. And then we've made it really simple where the clients that are coming through. So we have 3 teams across the 34 clients.
Very cool. And you said something interesting earlier as well, the percentage of inbounds converting to a consult versus outbounds. So if somebody's opted in with a Google ad or Facebook ad or web form submission from SEO, you said 3 to 6% of those people are actually going to book.
sorry, on inbound, we're going to see about 24% of them book, right? Warmer traffic source, that person's calling you. And the reason that is that 24%, just so everyone's doing the mathing, that sucks. It's because we also are doing all the overflow for the practice majority of the time. So we're getting rebooking. I'm in the parking lot. What door am I opening? Or I'm here to pick up Susie, who's post-op type of thing. When we're doing outbound, right? Yes, it depends on how fast we get to them, right? But yes, generally, because we're doing so much out, we call the leads 6 times over 6 business days. So that 6% is representative not just of any random outbound that we make within 5 minutes, but it's also we're calling the people the 5th time, the 6th time. And as you do that each time, you are seeing the chance of connecting with that person subsequently drop. If you measured only the 6 calls, you'd be closer to 2.5%.
I see. So the 6% is cumulative, or that's
Cumulative, yeah. I was gonna say that about 100 calls to make six appointments if they're cool. Like you've missed that 6 minute window. I'd have to go back and take a look through the data to see, okay, get to them within the first 8 minutes. What is that booking rate? I would actually bet it's probably close to that 25%.
okay. All right. So that the 100 calls wouldn't necessarily be 100 leads. That would be 100 divided by 6 because you're calling each one. Okay. So cool. Thanks for peeling back the curtain on
Yeah.
that, because I think it's going to help a lot of folks.
We still call every 6 weeks, we're calling a lead. If it came through and it hasn't booked, they're on the list.
Okay. And that's downtime. I don't have anything to do, so I'm going to call these leads. Very cool. So to close out here, what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned from a results perspective that most agency owners suck at that we haven't already covered?
I think we don't ask enough great questions in the sales call. My sales style, I'm one of the cockiest salespeople ever. I start off every call. We generally do a two clues call, right? So we do a qualification right away, which is basically, hey, are you a fit for what we do? And here's like our core values, and here's what's important to us, and is that important to you? And then it's just understanding like why have they not been successful? All this from the dental side too. Oh, hey, Keaton, you're our 7th agency in the last 12 months. So, okay, hang on. Are all 6 of those agencies horrible and Keaton's just the most amazing one? Or I share with my practices a little secret I'll share with everyone here, right? Marketing actually doesn't fix your problems. It just makes those problems more evident. So if you're not answering the calls, you're not calling the leads, there's no amount of marketing in the world that's going to fix that problem for the person. So what I will do is I will talk to that practice owner and I will say, awesome. So we have a fairly easy checklist, right? How many calls did your team miss last month? How many patients did you book from everything else? How many leads did you generate? And what's your revenue goal? Really simple things, right? And from those, most of the time I can determine what the significant problem for the practice is. So either they have
Do they usually have an answer for that?
most of the time they have no idea how many calls they missed, right? They're like, it's somewhere in Ring Central, right? And I'm like, okay, let's go find out. We're gonna need that information for the next call for the demo. They will know their new patient numbers. I will say that is one thing that most businesses, they know how many new customers and patients or new something like that they have, right? They won't have a clue how many leads. They'll be like lots. And from where? I don't know. And they will be able to give you the revenue goal. So at least you're 50% most of the time in that situation. If they don't have their revenue goal, then they have a wish and a prayer. But yeah, those 4 things, along with maybe a couple of other really good questions, gives you a sense of where they at. And then also the question is, what are they capable of? Because not every prospect you talk to actually is going to be able to effectively utilize your services. And that helps in retention, because then
Yeah.
you're not bringing in like shitty businesses into your agency and wondering why they're failing.
Just those 4 questions, you can tell exactly what kind of person that is. Like what's the mindset of the business owner? Why have they worked with as many agencies as they have in the past, etc. I love that. Brad Ferris, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah.
If people want to come get a CSM placed by you, where can they find you?
Yep. It's really simple. It's agencygrowthteam.com. Google it, or you can just message me on LinkedIn, Facebook, our clinic, or our website. Most agency owners have some way of getting a hold of me. It's not difficult. You Google our names and it shows up everywhere. So
I'll do you one better. I'll put it below this video. Novel concept, I know. Thanks, man. We'll see you soon.